Goldylocks Productions broadcasts universal cosmic frequencies that unlock, awaken, and expand the consciousness of our worldwide viewers and listeners.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Enjoy the Goldylocks Productions presentation of the In the Psychic Flow Show with Carolan Carey.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to In the Psychic Flow. So nice to have you join us this evening. We have a great show planned for you with a really special guest, and I will talk about that in 1 second. I also want to say we have a couple of great events coming up for the month of July, and I will announce those later. Tonight, we have a really special event planned for you with Reverend Kevin Lee, who is a dynamite minister, motivational speaker, coach, author. He's the man. He is, his career is taking off here. He's a wonderful speaker, very knowledgeable you are, Kevin, as well as suave and debonair.
Thank you.
And I enjoy everything that you do. And I just wanted to point out, I'm going to post Reverend Kevin Lee's website. Also, May 28th of this year, Reverend Lee was with us. Precipitation mediumship was his topic, and it's very interesting. And he's probably going to talk a little bit about that. Tonight, he's talking about the seance room. Now, I've listed it as the mysteries of the seance room, the secrets of the seance room. Kevin, what are you presenting with us tonight?
Well,
about the seance.
Well, definitely. Well, basically, just this is really a seance, and I really am. I guess I am sharing secrets, because a lot of times we, when the doors close and we seal everything up. Whoops, bear with me as I watch my sound. When the doors close and we see. Pardon there, I had a double echo in my system. Let me go back. Great to be on the show as always, and I thank you for this opportunity. I got a little sidetracked there, but really, we're going to talk about the seance room this evening. And I want our viewers to ask questions, because where else do you go and you get to ask somebody who's been in a lot of seances, what the heck goes on in there? Is it creepy and dark and scary and all that? No, it really isn't. But I will tell you what it's all about. And we're going to share not necessarily the secrets, but really just kind of the scientific things that we do. We do a lot of scientific testing, and we're going to talk about that as well. And because we're always trying to make sure that the event is sacred and secure. So definitely an amazing experience.
I have to say my experience in trance circle, leading a trance circle, and in the seance room, I have seen the most amazing things.
Yes.
That I never thought were even possible.
Me too.
My horizons, and I hope that does the same for everyone else. What metaphysics is all about, the history, and it's just so interesting. It really, really is an ever expanding your horizon of knowledge. So, Kevin, I'm going to let you take over the show. Okay. If people have questions, they'd like to post some questions about the seance.
Sure.
How it is conducted, or trance, or anything that you are speaking about, they can put them in the live comments. We won't be taking any readings tonight, but we are going to talk about some various topics, and I'm sure people are going to have questions, and I'm going to ask you a few questions myself on behalf of our viewers and listeners, if you don't mind.
Sure. And actually do me a favor, because if I do carry on too much in one topic, put your hand up, and then I can see you move, because that's an easy. I tell all my students, just raise your hand if you need to say something, because I'm going to mute all of you.
Okay.
Well, anyway, what I wanted to do for you, Carolan, and for the viewers tonight was really just to kind of demystify and pull back the curtain, no pun intended, but really just let you guys experience through me and my experiences and what I'm going to share, what it's like to be a part of for me, is a very sacred, and I know for you, Carolan, as well. This is our religion. It's our philosophy. This is our scientific experiments in many ways. And it's just, when I enter the seance room, it's like entering into the presence of angels, entering into the presence of these evolved beings that are in etheric form that take on physical form. So that's really what the experience is. It's a very, very sacred experience. And it's not scary. Could it be? Yes, for those who don't really know what's going on, I could understand why it's bizarre.
Yeah.
But it truly is amazing. And what's even more amazing, my little knowledge is always there, but seances have been held and documented for thousands of years. You find perfect, beautiful examples in the Judeo-Christian Bible when they talk about the tabernacles on the hills and on the mountains and everywhere, but also there's a Holy of Holies. These are tents that were constructed for the priests, and the priest would often wear those unusual breastplates with very particular stones, certain frequencies and colors, right? And those priests who wore those breastplates could approach the sacred relic of the Ark of the Covenant. And if they were not wearing it, they would be struck down or they would be killed. Very peculiar. That's a whole nother radio show. It's interesting. But what's interesting is only the most evolved and trained priest was allowed to go into the innermost sanctum of the holiest of holies. And the tents were literally built. I don't think I have a good example of it, but basically you can see my hands doing this, right? So if we build a tent that's square and this is the door to go into the tent, right? So we walk in this way and you have to walk around the side because on the inside is another little box of a tent. And on that side, the door is there, which means you're going in that way into the second layer of tent. And there are multiple layers and the tent gets smaller and smaller inside the greater tabernacle till you get to the holiest of holies where the highest priests were allowed. And that's where they spoke to Yahweh. Yahweh in the ancient language originally meant, it was a general term for the spirit world. It did not mean God. God has its own name in the old languages. And so it's just been misunderstood and mistranslated biblically. But basically, they would say they'd speak to God and God would speak to them and give them advice for the king and for the armies and for the people and for the priests and all those things. Well, they were holding seances. How do I know? Because one of the things I'm going to talk about and show you backs that up. In the Bible, for those of you who are Christian or Catholic or even Jewish, you may have read some of these old scriptures, and it never made sense to me as a child. Why would there be clouds inside of the tabernacle? Why would there be clouds rolling out in volume when Moses and his buddy, was it Joseph? I think it was Joseph. They would go into the tabernacle and the clouds would roll out and they would speak to God. It's ectoplasm, right?
Yes, good.
Ectoplasm literally looks like clouds whenever it's in a specific state, a gaseous state. It's unbelievable when you're able to see it. And so that's what was happening. And so this stuff has been going on for a long time. They didn't call it seances back then, but now we do. Seance. That word scares people all the time, every time I say it. But it also gets people to come to your show because they're curious.
Yes.
But think about this. The seance, it is a French word. It literally just means a sitting with spirit. Anytime a group of priests, and I'm going to use that word because when, say, for instance, priests get together, what do? They sit in a circle, kind of like a conclave, and they commune with spirits, especially in the Catholic religion, right? And there's all this communication with spirit. Well, that's what they're holding seances literally in the Vatican and in Catholic cathedrals when the priests get together and call in the saints, the saintly figures, the human souls who've gone on. Those were human beings who were sanctified, if that's the correct word. They were made saints, and they're calling them in for guidance, healing, upliftment, inspiration, all of that. They're literally holding a seance to call them forward for an experience. And I bet you guys have never thought about that. So really, it's going on more than people are aware. It's just called different things in different churches and different religions, but it really is a time of gathering with spirit. Wouldn't you say, Carolan?
Well, and also home circles. Did you mention that?
No, good point. Speak about that.
Another example that used to be very popular in the UK, here also in the USA. where people of like-minded set their own parameters to meet with spirit on a regular basis. And I've had this too. We had this for 4 or 5 years. Same people, pretty much, and would meet in a lot of time because spirit knows when you're coming. Once you set that up, we've had the most amazing experiences. So people have that in their home, and that's how a lot of the spiritualism grew. Was the home circles. That's how mediums developed and trance develops.
Exactly. And I see somebody in the chat room asking, Miss Anita, good to see you. Do you all hold hands? Actually, I love to hold hands. I miss hugging people these days, but that's another story. But I will say this. Yes, we do hold hands. And it's interesting because have you ever seen those funny little science experiments where you get 2 kids or 2 people and they each take one hand and they each hold a light bulb, a specific light bulb that lights up based on, I can't think of the name of the type of electricity that our bodies generate, but the light bulb will light up because of our human energy, just touching it. So we actually, spirit talks about that. When we hold hands, we are creating like a giant battery in the room in the shape of a circle. And so we're amplifying the ambient energy in the room that spirit can draw from to actually begin to cause phenomena to happen in the room. So that's a very important principle. It actually does help. So that's a great question, Anita. And, when I talk about the word seance, let's talk about another word. Let's talk about ectoplasm, right? We heard about that in Ghostbusters. Dan Aykroyd, for many of you who don't know, that whole movie came to be because Dan Aykroyd and his family discovered in the attic of his grandfather a trunk that the family didn't really know about. And in the trunk were all these journals and notes of him, the grandfather, he was a spiritualist medium. He was a practitioner, and he would sit in home circles and seances. And he had all of these accounts. I would love to read those journals.
Yes.
And so they talked about ectoplasm, and sometimes it would glow green, or it would glow in a white way, or it would look like clouds. Blue?
Yes.
And sometimes it would take on a solid form, like as solid as I am, or other times it would feel like cloth, like peculiar things that can take on many forms. So what is that ectoplasm? It's actually not slimy, but it can be moist and feel strange. But what ectoplasm is, it's actually the physicalized life force of me, the medium, or the guest, or the flowers in the room, whatever's in the room. Sometimes we bring flowers and water and things into the room, but spirit will typically draw from the medium. And there is a life force, like a battery of energy within that medium, and spirit will extract it, pull it out. They're borrowing it because you get it all back. And they use it, and then they physicalize it. And then that physical ectoplasmic substance is what they drape. They basically raise it up, or they build it up, and they walk into it, and it takes on the form of whatever their thoughts, the spirit world, makes it to be. It could be a ball, it could be flowers, it could be the shape of a child, a person, a full-grown person. I've been to seances where a bird flew through the room, but it wasn't a real bird. It was an ectoplasmic bird, but it still made noise because they had built a little voice box in the bird. It warbled as it flew through the room. Crazy.
Let me interrupt you a minute. Our founder, Reverend Dorothy Flexer of Sarasota, which is the Shrine of the Master at that time, she was a direct voice medium, and I showed last week what what do you call those things?
One of these things?
Yes, I showed that last week, and that I couldn't think for some reason. And talk about how the ectoplasm makes a voice box for that to work. Can you talk about that for a moment?
Sure. So the word direct voice means that this medium, Reverend Dorothy Flexer, amazing woman, you guys. If you can track down some history, hopefully I think she'll inspire you. Amazing lady. Anyway, so basically spirit will take the ectoplasm from the medium, right, and build up this physical substance, and it typically will come out of the orifices of the body. It could come out the ears, the nose, the eyes, the mouth. Even in the chest, we have a chest area. It could come out of the breast. It can come out of the belly button or the solar plexus. And really anywhere we have an orifice, it technically can come out. We have pores in our skin. It can literally come out of the pores.
Amazing.
So it can come out in different ways. When it is extracted, it typically will either make its way out, meaning spirit is pushing it out or pulling it out, or sometimes a medium is guided because they're entranced to reach up and grab whatever's around them to pull it forward. And it's not the medium, but it's spirit guiding the central nervous system of thoughts for the medium to reach up and do this and pull it forward. So it's really spirit moving the body robotically. I guess that's the word, like a robot. And so spirit's in charge of the body. Mm-hmm. As this substance is brought out, it typically will either hang and lay somewhere here on the body, somewhere around the top. And they are mimicking what is in the back of the throat, the larynx, right? This is our voice box. So right. Spirit will literally make a copy in the back, and there's a base of ectoplasm there. It comes up and out in another part of it, and it lays here and it replicates it out here. So this appendage, for lack of a better word, will move around and will literally begin to speak. And so it's this that mimics the voice that would normally come through here. A lot of times it does have an element of the medium. You can hear, it's so peculiar. You would swear it's the medium, but it's not the medium, because a lot of times their mouths are even gagged or full of water or huge pieces of cloth with tape. And so what happens is there will be accents of the medium. Their fluctuations of their voice, the intonation is even here in the spirit voice that has a different quality. Sometimes it sounds metallic, or it sounds, it just sounds different, peculiar. I don't know how to describe it. And sometimes it can be crystal clear, depending on the strength of the medium and the skill of the medium and spirit. Other times, if there's enough ectoplasm, the ectoplasmic voice box will actually travel and crawl, for lack of a better word, up the wall or over across the room, and it literally will sit in a corner and it will speak from the corner of the room. And so that's another way that it can present. It just depends, again, what is the potential of that medium. So Dorothy is amazing. I wished I could have met her. That would have been amazing to get to experience her direct voice. I heard amazing stories about her.
Yes. And all of our sessions were recorded.
And I'll tell you real quick, you asked about this. This is a spirit trumpet. And right. I just want to bring it up briefly, because when mediums are able to produce a volume of ectoplasm, it eventually will come out of the medium and typically reach out to pick up this instrument. Now, this is a telescoping. You can see how it shrinks, and then it gets back to full size. This is actually my student trumpet, right? And if you're really a student, I'll show you this. You get the baby one. It's like 4 or 5 inches, but it's so lightweight. When the beginners, I don't teach this, but these are the stories I've heard. The beginner students will get this for probably a good 6 months to a year, and once their power can get it to levitate and move, then they get to put the second layer, which just fell, but there's a second layer that can be added. As they get stronger, the third can be added. And so then eventually, I'm going to have to back up to show you this. Once your ectoplasmic energy gets strong, you can move up to the advanced trumpet, which looks like this. And this is, you guys, you can see them all the way at the back of my room. This is massive.
It's a big one. Yeah.
And you can see how in one end is quite large. That's the mouth, if you will. And then here is the end where the ectoplasm typically will wrap around and either go inside or attach to that little tiny tip, okay? And so it will build inside somewhere into that trumpet. There we go. You can see this one's been beat up, and it was actually gifted to me. And so basically they will build the ectoplasmic apparatus inside to produce voice, to actually create. They can create hands or even feet that can reach out of the trumpet. They can produce apports through there, and the apports will literally trickle down, come down the trumpet and land in your hands or in your lap. That's pretty amazing. I've seen, and think about that, because I showed you, if that is under control, this tiny little tip, and this is the kind of the receiving or the speaking end, the big end, right? And so if things are coming into here, how are big objects getting into that little thing? Well, they're being produced inside. And that's the key. So, you know,
of that, correct? Kevin, you're going to show us?
Yes, I have some marvelous pictures to show you. May I show those?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I want to share with you some truly marvelous pictures from inside a seance room. Okay, and I didn't mention this earlier, but all of this phenomena that we're speaking about is a type of mediumship we call physical mediumship. You've all seen Teresa Caputo and James Van Prague, or maybe Carolan, maybe myself, standing on a stage or on the radio, and we are mentally doing our mediumship, right? We're connecting our mind to spirit. In the seance room, you can do that, but it tends to be a physically oriented, meaning I'm working with physical mediumship, spirits using my physical energies, my spiritual energies to cause, yes, they're using my spiritual energies to cause physical phenomena to happen, right? In the physical dimension. So that's why we call it physical mediumship. It has a physical effect. Things are levitated, appear, disappear, build up, all that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to show you are images within the seance room. Oh, there it is. And I'm going to show you what they typically look like. And if we can get that, has that appeared? There it is. Okay.
There it is.
Perfect. So you can see that's a typical circle, right? And in the back, you see a white chair with a black round cabinet hanging from the ceiling. You can see in the middle of the floor, there looks like an African drum and also an upside down bucket. And what I can see, you may not, but it's actually musical instruments like little bells that make lots of noise, right? And, you know, things that can be levitated. You're going to laugh, you guys, but this actually works. A toilet paper roll that has been painted very lightly with a tiny little pin, a pinstripe of luminous paint, because spirit will lift it up and spin it in the air and shoot it all over the room. And isn't that fun? And you can also use, if you're sitting for your development in your home circles, what about all those peanuts we get in the packages that from UPS and Amazon? We throw them away. Those are perfect. Get a handful of them, put some dots of luminous paint on them, and spirit will begin to levitate those at some point. So that's pretty fun and amazing.
Wow.
So this is a great example of a seance room. Let's see if I can make that go forward. There it is. This is another example of a cabinet that actually is built into the corner of a very large room. And you can see that it has, this one actually has two sides, and basically the medium would go into that structure. The curtains are closed, and that allows spirit to condense the energies that they're extracting and building up around the medium, and they stay within the confines of that physical structure. Even though it's very soft, it literally holds the energy almost like a big battery. And so a lot of the phenomena will build and build and build there, and then push out into the room, interact with the audience, pull back to the cabinet, build and build and build the energy again. They strengthen it, and they'll push it back out into the room. So that's kind of a fascinating thing to me. This is a close-up of a round cabinet with a chair with some items in the chair. And it's one of many styles of cabinets, but you can see it's really right. It's just right around the medium. So it's concentrating that energy. And you can I've actually built those. I've actually designed and built some round cabinets before. So they're pretty easy to do. This is important because this image shows you guys, let's see if I can make it a little bigger. Yeah, there we go. So this is what we call 6-point control. This is an old spiritist style of working, especially in Germany and Europe. And so the medium in the middle, that gentleman in the blue jeans, is actually being touched on both of his feet, on his thighs, and on both of his hands are under control of the two attendants on each side of him. They're usually a special guest or a special host for the evening, maybe his wife, and they will take 6 points on his body to control him, touch him, yet all of the phenomena is happening like crazy out in the room. And if we're all holding hands and the door is sealed and locked, and taped shut, there can be nobody else in the room but spirit. Truly amazing.
And some, excuse me, Kevin, some mediums like David Thompson are actually tied into the chair.
Absolutely. And that's just another way of having some checks and balances.
Right.
And let's see if I can get this to advance. Come on, little thing. And so let me just pull this up real quick. Oh, I just want you to see it. Okay, there it is. Now I want you to see this. Make sure this shows for you guys. Yes. Okay, there it is. This is an example of another seance that was took place in the 1990s. This is a group called the Skull Experiments. S-C-O, yes, S-C-O-L-E. It's down there in the paragraph, kind of the fourth word on the right. And in England, they basically were not working with ectoplasm. These are physical mediums who chose and asked spirit, could we please work with this new energy that is being made available to planet Earth that was coming in or in the 1990s and around 2000, really around the turn of the century. What was the turn of century? It was the age of Aquarius, a new energy for the planet that was a highly spiritual energy. So they documented over, I don't know how many hundreds, over 500, I think 500 different types of spirit phenomena that was physical that had never been seen or documented before. Amazing. And movies have been made about it. Books have been written about it.
And what do you think, Kevin? It was our conclusion in Circle that we had a mix of both.
It's possible. It sure is possible. You can definitely have that. And we're starting to see that actually, because a lot of mediums want this new. See, here's the thing.
Taxing.
It's not as taxing. Very perfect point, because ectoplasm is my life force energy. If spirit is extracting it and manipulating it and putting it back and pulling it out and putting it back, that's going to tax my body and actually my hormonal system. And that's why a lot of mediums, a lot of physical mediums tend to have diabetes, hypertension, and some other, their hormones are off. They tend to be obese. They tend to really have bad habits of smoking and drinking and eating, and it just throws the body out of sync. It's really interesting. Their bodies suffer. And so it is not for everybody. I mean, it truly is a labor of love. It's, for me, I would put myself through it only because it's in service to my fellow man and also for spirit. So I am not my body. I am spirit. So for me, I can sit with that, but some people can't sit with this. So I will tell you, this new energy is pulled from the atmosphere, the ethers, and it does not touch the life force of the medium. The spirit world do not. So if light were to come on, the light would not affect the medium if they were using new energy, this new style of energy.
It'd be done daylight.
Yeah, they could even do it in daylight. And so if I had all of my, had a lot of ectoplasm out in the room, my life force energy, if any light source is shown onto it or suddenly produced in the room that spirit was not expecting, say a door opens, a light comes on, a flashlight comes on, or a cigarette lighter turns on, is lit, that light literally is like a form of radiation, and it literally causes a shock, and it instantly it obliterates the ectoplasm, but the spiritual force of the power of that ectoplasm is recoiled back to its original point, which is the medium. And it can pick up a lot of objects in the room that is between where it was and where the medium is. And those become weapons that are propelled towards the medium. Some mediums have actually died from
Helen Duncan.
Yes, Helen Duncan and others. So ectoplasmic mediumship is, people are trying to move away from it, and they're having a lot of success. They're moving towards more new energy in mediumship, this new physical type energy. Now, this the image you're seeing is just another style of a seance. That's a trumpet seance with a few medium chairs up front and then some student chairs in black, right? This is an image of, I'm sorry it's so small, but that actually is a materialized spirit guide named Silverbell, and one of my guiding stars, Ethel Post Parrish, is in the cabinet. There's her attendant opening the curtains to show the entranced medium, and so there's a photograph of a spirit guide that is taken on physical form. It does have a peculiar look, let me tell you. They literally do look two-dimensional.
Can you click on that? Let me see. If we
Yes, let me go back. Let me see if I can make that just a tiny bit bigger for you. Oh, pardon me. Did I? Oh, it's the wrong one. I'm coming back to it. Come on, little picture. Here it is. Can you? Oh, I can. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I could do that. Can you see that?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay. Let me do this. Let me share the next one. So anyway, basically what happens with these is basically the ectoplasm, as it takes form, spirit impresses it with their thoughts, with their essence. And in this next image I'm going to show you, it's a photograph of what was above a trance medium's head, who was actually speaking to the room, but spirit wanted to show in photography that they were present and what they were doing. This is one of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen. Okay, come on, Kevin. Where's that share screen? You got to see it. This is amazing, you guys, because it captures the essence of the main spirit guide, a beautiful joy guide for the trance medium. And you can see a woman in the middle, in the midst of all this ectoplasmic energy, and what is around her but a field of flowers and roses. You can barely see them at the bottom.
Wow, that's amazing.
And she says, in the story goes, when the medium began to speak in trance, she says, the way I control the words in the medium is I play the energies of the light and the color and the smells of the flowers in my garden. And that's how I control the medium in your dimension. And there's a photograph of it. It's truly a beautiful story.
Wow. Truly,
truly beautiful. So anyway, with that, I wanted to just kind of show you, and again, another example.
Cool.
These are beautiful little student trumpets. Students made it one of the workshops we did at one of my churches. And you can make all kinds, like tubes. You can make little funnels. They're very easy to make. And this one I'm going to show you, it's about a 30-second clip. I want to show you, this is an example of spirit producing what we call apports. Okay, these are objects brought from another location through the ethers into the seance room. But this time they go through the medium from his eyes and they come out into the room in his hands. And this was captured on film. He's actually very well known for it. He's from Germany. His name is Kai, K-A-I. And I think you guys will enjoy this. Okay.
He is amazing.
Okay, here we go. Let me back it up. So as you guys can see here, they're beginning to build under the eyelids. The under eyelids began to swell. They pushed on them, and the crystals came out. Okay, and you could see before this, it's a longer video, but before that, you can actually see them building lower in the face, and literally, spirit was manipulating his hands to have him push them up, and the ectoplasm, as it touched light, it shifts into a new form, which takes on the form of the crystals that come through him. So quite remarkable. Here's the next one as it literally pushes up. I think he gives it a little nudge and it pops out, but they're truly beautiful. Yes. So that was something that I wanted you guys to see, because it really is remarkable what spirit can do. They can bring animals in. They can bring people in from other locations.
Loved ones.
They can bring flowers in. I have been in seances where, everybody would love to see things. So a lot of times things are done in the dark, which causes questions, and people, hey, I was skeptic. Even with David Thompson, I admit it. I went for 3 years, 25 seances. I think I went to in 3 years with him. Spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
What happened was, it took me a while to stop second guessing my skeptical nature, my analytical nature. I knew he was secured in a chair. I knew he was bound and gagged. Amazing. I checked him. I checked the room. Others checked the room. The room is sealed. Everybody's holding hands. I can hear in the dark exactly where people are.
Right.
And yet phenomena still happening. It took me a while, so I get it. But it's really interesting. I've been in seance rooms where the lights were brought up. This is amazing. I'm going to show you something. I have a beautiful apport, And this was again with the same medium. And his spirit control said, we can send objects into your dimension on a quantum light beam, like a quantum flash of light. So we said, would you please demonstrate? So he said, sure. He said, I'm going to send it through the medium's hand out into the room. You're going to see it. It will all be done in the red light. We turned on the red light in the room. We could see everybody in the room. We cleared the floor of all of the objects in the floor. And the spirit control said, look at this point. There was actually a glowing dot, a mark on the floor. We stared at it. Again, there's nothing there. And as the medium's hand came out, the spirit control begins to do this with the hands, pushing its energy through the hands. And suddenly, like a flash of light that was palpable, it touched us. You could feel it. It shot through the room, kind of like lightning. You couldn't see it, but it was light everywhere. And instantly on that spot, this appeared.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You guys see that?
Oh, it's amazing.
This appeared in front of 25 people, 12 feet away from the medium, or probably 10. We howled. It was amazing, literally amazing to witness, to behold this. And so this is actually a gorgeous center stone. And it was a gift from Spirit to me for all the work that I did to grow my community, grow my church, grow my ministries, to serve people. And it basically energetically connects me to all the other center stones and activation stones that have come from this medium's spirit team, from the ethers into our dimension. So there's a grid of these around the earth, and I'm just one little point, a little dot of light. And I was so touched, and I saw that with my own eyes. And I've seen crystals literally just falling out of thin air as we had turned the room lights on, just to let everybody leave the room. And as people are leaving, objects are falling out of the air on the floor. It was uncanny. So it's really amazing, all of this, because, you know, you and I, Carolan, I say all the time to my students and my people and wherever I go, you and I are so blessed. We live in a world like a Hollywood movie. Most people cannot believe this stuff is real. We literally live in a magical world. And I feel so blessed that you and I are on this path. We know that there's no death, that the essence of Kevin and Carolan, we continue living on. We just leave the body behind. Mm-hmm. And there's so much spiritual potential inside of us and all around us if we'll just begin to access it and change the mind, because that controls everything. The mind is really the key. You change your mind, you change the state of everything around you. And so it's about affirmations, gratitude, prayer. You know, I tell people I'm a minister, and sometimes that offends people. You'd be surprised what people will say to my face about God or the Bible or ministers or seminary. And I'm like, I'm just a spiritual person that happens to have a government check because from Sally Mae, because I had to pay for seminary somehow. And I am just here to serve and be the best that I can as a spirit in a human body. And I don't necessarily say that I'm highly religious, but I'm so connected to spirit, and I am always talking to spirit, and I live in a magical spiritual world. To me, it's not so much the religion as it is the practice of what we believe in metaphysics and spiritualism, and I live it every day. And so it is a religion in that sense, but it's also philosophical. It's the way I live, and it's the way I experiment. And I think we just need to think about that. You know, every day I tithe back a portion of my life to spirit. How? People hate that word. I grew up hating it. But I tithe back a portion of the life that God gave me yesterday, the day before, the year before. I do it in meditation, and I give back to the universe 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. When I sit today, I sat in a circle with Reverend Tiffany and some others virtually. And in a way, I'm tithing back to spirit. I'm returning to spirit the vibration that they sent to earth. So it's a way of tithing back and just being a blessing in the world. And we've got to bless ourselves with meditation daily, just small bits if that's all you can do. And it really does make your life really magical.
And what would be spirits? It always seems that for many years, we challenge spirit. Mm-hmm. And I feel now they're challenging us. by
Mm-hmm.
the work that many people are doing in home circle or in seance room.
Mm-hmm.
It just evolves more and more and more. It's absolutely fascinating.
I like your word. They're challenging us, and it's really true. And, I think, I can feel when you keep saying home circle, I think the viewers need to hear that, because I have been on, I don't know how many mediumship and spiritual development courses, and I've been to over 300 seances in 13 years. I do know that.
Wow.
I've sat in a lot of seances. And I want to say this: the home circle, which we call a home development circle for us, as for any of your psychic gifts, healing, psychic development, intuition, mediumship of the mind, mental mediumship, or physical mediumship, what I'm teaching today, or precipitation mediumship, or direct voice, whatever you're working on, you got to sit once a week, really, maybe once every 2 weeks, but really once a week with a dedicated group of sitters. And the best is all of your other sitters in the room are sitting for you to develop. No one else is developing. I know that's hard to set up sometimes. Everybody wants to be an intuitive or medium or healer. But I would say 1 or 2 mediums need to develop per night, no more, because otherwise you thin out the energies of development and nobody develops much at all. So stick to 1 or 2 mediums developing, or intuitives, and get you some sitters that will sit for you and basically just send energy forward and just watch the experience of your development, what you're doing. But look up home development circles and see what you can find. Type in the word spiritualism or metaphysics, and then type in the word home development circle. Or maybe if you're looking to be a healer, type in healer, or a psychic, type in psychic. Use your keywords to help you find. There are a lot of organizations that actually have lists and little directories, and maybe you can find that. People that can, in your area, that can come and physically sit with you, if not virtually. Physical is best, as Carolan and I know. Virtual is one thing. That's what we're doing now. But let me tell you, physical, and it works. Virtual works. I have students in my virtual precipitation development home circles. Reverend Tiffany, our producer of the show, is in my circle. She gets precipitation. My students are getting precipitation. We're all getting precipitation. And it's just that spirit knows we're sitting for the intention, and they manifest it. They bring it forward. But it's always best to sit as close as you can to a physical, fully developed medium of whatever you're trying to develop or bring forward, because the energy will wash off onto you. And it's almost like your body's a little rechargeable battery. It pulls from your teacher, and you build up the battery of your spiritual gift. And you see it also. I study yoga. All my old yoga books over there, same thing. The masters, the swamis, always told their students that they had to sit next to them. Always. They had to live in the ashram with them. They had to do everything with them. Why? Because the master, the swami, or the guru always was very, very gently imparting spiritual potentials to the student. And eventually, as the students built up the storehouse of energies, they could manifest the same, if not more, phenomena that the guru also could do. So they tended to mimic their gurus in spiritual gift potentials. So that's a fascinating principle that I see in ancient yoga and modern yoga, and also in spiritualism, metaphysics, even in I have friends who are Wiccans. Even in that community, you see the same phenomena with the master priestess to the student. It's just a principle of a universal law, I'm sure.
Well said. Thank you so much. It's very interesting. Everything that you're talking about, I think, is of major interest and importance. And what would you say the reason spirit brings us these gifts? Is it to prove the continuity of life, or the magic within us? What would you say?
Well, there's a couple of reasons why they do it. And actually, there can be different reasons. So let me say this. Someone asked, it disappeared. Oh, there it is. Anita, how many people sit in the room? Well, typically for a home development circle, remember that Bible scripture that says, for where 2 or more are gathered, God, or it was saying, I am present in your midst, but it's really God is present. What does that mean? It means spirit. It means spirit is present, the divinity of the universe, that living essence. So if you and a friend get together, you can produce phenomena at some point once you develop. if you have a few more, what I have seen, if you can get about 5 to 8, I have seen some up to 12, but if you can get 5 to 8 people to commit to show up every single week, and they're willing to do it for a year, 5 years, I mean, you got to commit to this for a long time. You can't just willy-nilly come and go. The phenomena won't evolve. It won't evolve as good. So you need to show up and be committed as a group, and you need to be harmonious. You need to be friends or friendly. And if there's any tension in the group, it's like a knife to the energy. It will dampen the energy and cut it, and it won't develop nicely. It won't develop strongly or come forward quickly. So you want to make sure everybody's in harmony, joyful, getting along, and sit every single week for an hour, hour and a half, whatever you feel inspired to do. And that's all you got to do. And there are more particulars to that. But now, Carolan, you asked, why do they bring the phenomena forward? They bring it forward, like you said, to prove through the evidence of the phenomena happening, the evidence of the phenomena occurring in a way they say it will work, meaning through voice or through raps on the wall, some form of communication. They want to show there is an intelligence. Oh, that's it. That's what I teach. Thank you, Spirit. With all of the phenomena, when things are flying through the air, when voices are coming out of objects and out of the wall, out of the ethers, out of things, you know, and when phenomena is happening, there's an intelligence to it, which implies there's something living attached or associated behind it. So that's where we get that principle of there's no death. There's personality in the spirit world, which is the consciousness of souls. Those are usually the spirit workers. And so they are here to say, you guys, look what we can do in your dimension. It's hard for us, but we can do it. But we're not dead. We're just in a different form. But we can have an effect in your dimension. Now, they can also make phenomena happen that can heal people. There are healing seances that take place where literally ectoplasm can come out and be laid on certain parts of the body, and negative forces are extracted, and what remains is more of a positive force in the person. And all kinds of things can happen. But really, you know, they do it for humor. They do scientific experiments. I've actually experienced matter going through matter in my hands, which was crazy. I've experienced objects materializing in front of my eyes. I've witnessed a small body of an infant stepping out of a cabinet. It looked like literally a ghostly form, and it had the tiniest little arm, and the fingers were so tiny, you guys, but every finger moved independently. It wasn't like a hand, like a doll's hand. It was literally a little spirit child's hands, and it was remarkable. But it looked like it looked like a cloud that was about to rain. It had the consistency of a cloud, but it was in a human arm form. And I've seen arms. I've seen a cloud of ectoplasm that was regurgitated up and out of the medium onto a concrete floor in a huge room. No one's near it. And it's literally breathing like a cloud, like a living cloud. And as the spirit is speaking out of the medium to it, the spirit is saying, let me show you my arm. And suddenly this thing comes up out of this cloud in the middle of a concrete floor, you guys. And suddenly it begins to turn, and then it takes the shape of a hand, and the fingers open. And as it waved, I noticed there was something on a finger. It was the spirit control's signature ring that he's known. There are photographs of him as a scientist having worn them in the 18 and 1900s. So, and it looked exactly as it does in the archives. And it waved, it responded to us as we were laughing and talking to it. And then it disappeared into the ectoplasm. And then the ectoplasm came back up into the medium and disappeared in the mouth. It's shocking. But it was just to show that there's an intelligence. And what we think matter doesn't exist. Matter is not matter. Matter is literally energy and forces. Mm-hmm. And so they're trying to show us that what we think is reality is truly the illusion. And spirit lives in reality. And that's a very important message for us. These people who say we live in the matrix and it's some sort of an intelligent computer program, well, it kind of is, because we call God that infinite intelligence, and everything is in order. There's mathematics to everything, which implies some sort of an intelligence that is controlling it, but it's a divine intelligence. And even the yogis who connect to that great source of, they call it cosmic mind. And they said all mathematics and order flows from cosmic mind to give form and substance to the ethers in the spirit world. And it's just so beautiful how it's described in different cultures, but it all makes sense and it all comes back together.
Who were some of the, we are in the Afterlife Connect group.
Yes.
You and I, well, you are, and I'm just snuck in there.
No, you're in there.
With Jock Brocas. Who are some of the people that inspire you that people can, our viewers, visitors, and listeners can look up? Like Jock Brocas, for instance.
Well, Jock is a highly, I'm telling you, I don't know many highly ethical, moralistic mediums. And I hate to say that, but I mean, he just has such an incredible nature. He actually was born into a Jesuit family, priest, and he went and so he's got kind of that background. So he's very serious and very devoted in such a way that a lot of mediums and intuitives just aren't devoted to the spirit world. I'm devoted, but he's so devoted. He's just amazing guy, but he produces a lot of videos and programs, and he's the director of the International Society for the Standards of Mediumship and Psychical Investigation, a mouthful, ISSMPI for short. Right. And I'll drop that into the chat room as I'm talking. Right. But basically it means that he is looking to bring forward professionalism and credentials and ways of making sure that we are coming forward as people with amazing spiritual gifts in a very moral way, ethical way, and a professional way. I'm tired of people looking at me like a gypsy. I have morals, I have ethics, you know, and I am not here to take advantage of people. I believe in the law of karma, and I run my life by that. And I think people who choose not to go to schools of learning like the Arthur Findlay College. Thank you, Spirit. You guys need to go look up. This is one of several, but I'll just mention it because I've been there. It's called the Arthur Findlay College, okay? And it's outside of London, 2 hours north in the county of Essex, okay? In the city of village of Stansted. And there's a big airport called Stansted Airport. You can fly right in. But anyway, they are a school of spiritualism, and they train you to be healers. They train you to be psychics. They train you to be great mediums. They have they're highly they do a fantastic job. That's all I can say.
I think they're going to do some virtual classes as well. I think that's the latest thing.
And I'll tell you, they are affiliated with the Spiritualist National Union because they are a spiritualist college, in that SNU, right, .org, no, I don't know how it is, but it's over in UK. I don't know how the URL for it. But basically, they created a virtual version of the national organization. And now you and I, here in the United States and elsewhere in the world, we can tap into great mediums and great classes for really, really affordable, you guys.
Right.
And it's called SNUI for internet. Okay, it's the internet version. And amazing, you guys. I think you pay barely $20 a year and you get access to tons of free stuff and very discounted courses. High quality courses, you guys, and great in that we don't get in the United States that often. So I highly recommend that. There's a school of learning outside of New Jersey. It's in Fairfield, New Jersey. And before I get this incorrect, I'm going to double check in my browser. But yes. And it's a school of mediumship and learning. They teach a lot of different things. And it's called the Inner Spiritual Center. And it is founded and run by two great mediums, Sharon Subis, and also a Scottish medium who now lives in Switzerland, Bill Collar.
Right. Now, great.
Bill's amazing. And Bill, actually, I'll just put a plug in real quick. I will be personally hosting him in my ministry in November, later this year, here in Fort Lauderdale. And that'll be announced in probably another month. And we're going to have him for a week. He's coming to us after you guys. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be hosting him. But basically, their school in New Jersey, in Fairfield, New Jersey, and Inner Spiritual Center, they have a 2-year mediumship development program. I took it. I completed it. It was the best program I have ever taken, I have to say. And I plug it all the time because it cleaned up so many mistakes I learned in other classes and things that never made sense to me and weren't working. My mediumship was never the same after that program. And I am so grateful that I found that program. And it's in the United States. And there are no other programs like it that I really know of that quality. And so that's Bill Collar, Coller, and Sharon Siubis, Siubis. Great program. Go check it out because it'll benefit you in your development, your psychic and your mediumistic potentials. So I would say those are really the key for, viewers and listeners to go and get hooked up with. You guys invest in yourself. It may be a little expensive to travel, but invest in yourself. You're investing in your soul's evolution, literally, in progress and your potentials, and you're serving other people with your gifts. So it's very important.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed your video of Kai. Kai is fabulous.
Yes.
Another one that is actually very good coming out of the UK, Scott Milligan.
Oh, fantastic.
Fantastic.
Scott Milligan. And for those of you who don't know, please look him up because he has been working since he was a teenager. Very great story. And Spirit produces full materializations. There's direct voice. There's apportation, I believe, as well from time to time. And he is a fabulous trance medium, high quality, old, what I call the old spiritualist style that I admire very much. And his work is impeccable, ethical, legit. And you guys definitely need to make your way out to try and track him down. Now, Scott actually travels to New Orleans about once a year, and he's been coming to the organization We Don't Die. Also, We Don't Die Radio, and We Don't Die with Sandra Champlain. She hosts a lot of mediumistic events through her organization, and Scott is one of the mediums. So you can go to a seance through that organization wherever they're hosting them in the country. Okay?
Yeah, he's done some free ones too, or
yes,
online. Very interesting to watch his trance work. He's excellent. If you go to Afterlife Connect, right, .com, you'll see a lot of mediums on there. Kevin's on there. I'm on there. Jock is on there. A lot of people are on there that are incredibly talented and very willing to teach and share their gifts. They all have, websites and all this that you can check them out. So I want to thank Kevin so much for spending time with us. We have a couple of minutes left. Where are you going to be, Kevin? What are you up to next?
Oh gosh, where's my calendar? Well, let me tell you this. I am actually hosting for Camp Chesterfield, and that'll be in about a week. And I'm going to be hosting a virtual a small conference. It's basically a full day of classes. And you can find these on my timeline for Facebook, which is facebook.com/Rev Kevin Lee. And on July 18th, and then also on August 15th, I'm hosting 2 courses each of those days. And those are basically your Psychic 101 and 202. And then also developing your angel card reading skills. So that'll be level 101 and 202. So again, that's in July and August. You can find those. It'll be a great experience. We'll have a good crowd. And that's pretty much some of the big things coming up in the next month or two for me.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing all of and you're such a good teacher and such a so
There's never enough time.
Huh?
Never enough time to teach everything.
I know, but you really do explain things very, very well, and I'm sure our listeners just love it. Our viewers just want to point out a couple of things. Thank you for sharing all that and for coming back to be with us. It's such a pleasure to have you with us, Reverend Kevin Lee. Don't forget to check out Facebook with him and his website. Next week we have July 16th, the amazing, the adorable Jeremy Ryden, astrologer extraordinaire. He is also a show host here on Goldylocks Productions. Higher Realms. I remembered it. Higher Realms. So he will be here with us next week. July 23rd, psychic Jane Doherty from South Plainfield, New Jersey. Known Jane for a long time. She is amazing. She was one of the psychic pioneers. and I feel does amazing work at a TV show, is off-Broadway.
Wow.
She's a guardian of one of the crystal skulls. There's only 4 in the world, I understand.
Wow, I didn't know that.
She will be with us July 23rd. July 30th, Mr. Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer, returns. So we are we're so excited to have all these great guests with us. And thank you all for being with us tonight. And the amazing Reverend Kevin Lee. You are amazing. Thank you so much for explaining.
Love you, Carolan.
The everything precipitation mediumship. Don't forget to check out that with Kevin Lee. And this one, he's going to do more, I'm sure, on this Secrets of the Seance Room. I know he is.
We will.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for being with us, everyone. See you next time. Thank you, Reverend Kevin.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Become a Goldylocks Productions VIP patron. Receive exclusive access to live stream special and other epic perks. Join the Goldylocks Productions VIP community today.